Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Iceberg Theory podcast. Today's episode is Love Beyond Luck, what it really takes to find a partner. Our guest today is going to explore the beyond surface level dating tips and explore the deeper beliefs and shifts, the patterns that shape the journey of finding a meaningful relationship. True barriers for people who are in the late 20s, 30s, 40s, and beyond. What does it take for them to find a partner? And why something so personal should never be outsourced until you're very sure of it. Enjoy the episode. Thank you. Hi, Shalini. Welcome to the podcast, The Iceberg Theory. It's a pleasure to have you on our show today.
Thank you so much for having me here. Excited about our conversation.
We are excited too. And what better topic could we have, which is so more relevant in today's world? Before we, get into our conversation, I would love to introduce Shalini. Shalini is the founder of And We Met, a community for single Indians, people in their late 20s, 30s, 40s, and even 50s, looking beyond to enter a substantial relationship. Now, this is a wonderful space that you work in, Shalini, and I'm sure so many of our listeners would be just eager to know what is it that we're going to uncover today about, finding your love in your late 20s, 30s, 40s, and beyond. Uh, would love to know a little bit about you, your background, and what led you to build this platform.
Before I share about what led me to build this platform, I just want to, say that, on And We Met, we have singles from the age of 28 till the age of 65.
Wow.
So, yes. And led me to build this platform is, I think, my own life experience when I was, from the age of 19 to 26, I was introduced to the boy's parents. I didn't meet any boy where, in all honesty, I was rejected or declined by everybody who came to see me, stating "ladki kali hai," the girl's wheatish or dark complexion, and I never understood what was this whole thing of complexion to do with who I am. So that was what I think that's when I think the seed of And We Met was sown, which I didn't realize till much later. I took about, I would say, 10 years to feel good about myself or for who I am. And at 37, I remember going back to my mom and, just telling her that, hey, find someone for me or help me find someone. And she was sitting with her friends and I spoke this and that's when they told me so in Punjabi they said that you want to find someone now at 37. And by the way, at 37 I'd finished my half marathon at Pondicherry for the first time and I felt really young and uh, full of life. And I don't think that I'd missed the bus. So these kind of conversations led me to build And We Met. Whilst I found my person, in my late 30s, I saw that there was a lot of struggle and of singles, in the latter part of 20s or 30s looking for their person. And that led me to build And We Met.
Wonderful. And I can't agree more with you when you said the struggle that you mentioned about, people in their late 20s, early 30s, late 30s. Um, God, it comes with so much of societal pressure, personal pressure. And yeah, we're going to get into all of that, as we speak. But great to hear where this seed of And We Met was actually sown for you. And when it comes from personal experiences, that's more like it's not a business, it's a passion. It's something that you work towards as a purpose. And it's a beautiful space that you've picked up, so congratulations on that. um, let's get into dating, so because I'm sure this is something that excites everybody. especially people who probably have come out of relationships and are looking for a long term, a permanent relationship, something which is more reliable for them. Um, Early years of life, when you're in your late teens, early 20s, it's a breeze. You meet someone and then the sparks come out and it all happens. But the game changes when you're in your late 20s, early 30s, late 30s. With your experience, Shalini, dealing with the space, tell us from a mindset perspective, how is finding love in your 30s different from what you do in your early 20s?
Okay, so I would say love at its core doesn't change with age. Okay, so the desire for connection, the thrill of chemistry, the hope of being seen and understood actually remains constant. But what does evolve is our perspective, which changes. And this changes the process of finding love in our 20s versus 30s and beyond. Just let me ask you, what age group do you fall under?
I'm in my 40s.
Okay. And help me understand, is your understanding of love different now versus what it was whilst you were 35 or 30 or 25 or 20?
Oh, it's very different. I can say that early 20s was all about having those tick marks and, okay, somebody is, good looking and all of those things. But it changed in my 30s. Today in my 40s, if somebody asks me to find love, though I'm in a committed relationship, I'm married for 10 years now. But yeah, it's very different. Love is very different
Correct. So what
now.
I'm just saying is that things change, right? So,
Yes.
so as Indians, wherever we are in the world, yeah, I say that it's in our early to mid 20s is when we step out of our safety net of our homes. All
Yes.
right. And this actually holds true only for those who leave home, for their professional growth.
Yeah.
But early to mid 20s is when we've just finished studying, we've become financially independent, there's freshness, a sense of freedom, and an openness to the unknown. During this time, as you said, heartbreaks happen, but we bounce back, quickly. And also in our early to mid 20s, there is no pressure and there's room to explore without weight of expectation. But as we move into our late 20s and beyond, things begin to shift. uh, we've seen more of life. We have faced rejections both professionally and personally. We've traveled, we've taken risks, we've made mistakes, and we actually fear to make new ones. Uh,
Okay.
whilst we even may carry a carefree spirit, I think it's no longer untouched by reality, and I think there is more awareness on and more caution. But then there is also this social pressure. Okay. Suddenly, it's not about finding someone, it's about getting married. So, for singles in their 20s, 30s, and beyond, there's this silent, sometimes loud message that we missed the relationship bus. So, we must marry the next person we meet. And honestly, this messes the whole process. Not just this, as we grow older, our expectations also grow, and we want to find someone who fits just right. And in this search of perfect match, we often fall into dating exhaustion. And so, for singles in 30s, not because love is hard, but because the process, it feels heavier than it did before. And this is my long answer to your question.
No, and I don't think there could have been a better answer, Shalini, because you rightly pointed out that, it then becomes the pressure that I have to get married, and the next person that I meet, probably this is the guy or this is the girl. And that's the pressure you meet someone with. And that, like you said, changes the game. Now, since we're talking about, that pressure of finding a partner, and here we're talking about a long-term relationship, marriage in most possibilities, right? So tell me why we shouldn't outsource our partner search to parents and friends, because in early 20s, you don't want to do that. But the moment you're in your 30s, you're like, okay, let me see who in my network can help me find someone whom I can match up with.
Great question. So before I respond, okay, let me ask this to the singles. that will your parents or friends be living your relationship? Okay. Will they be navigating intimacy, handling conflicts for you? If so, outsource it by all means. Also, I'd also like to talk about, before I get share more on relationship or on the outsourcing bit, I want to talk about, let's talk about your job. All right. Your parents wish the best for you. All right. But did they choose the role in the organization you are in, the income you draw, your manager, or the company culture you work in? Probably not. Okay. And if things go south at work, for example, it's toxic, and you leave, you quit. All right. Your parents will not hold you accountable for the choices you've made to change your workplace. But when it comes to choosing a partner, we hand over the reins to them. I think it's often done because of fear. Because if you choose and it doesn't work, the emotional weight of blame and guilt, it's difficult to deal with it. So I think, so you think that, hey, maybe my parents and friends should find someone for me. Um, and also, here is another thing. If you are not fully honest with them, okay, about what you want, say you don't want children, okay, you're not planning to live with family, you may have high or low sex drive, or you may be wanting a live-in relationship instead of marriage. If you are not letting them do this for you, you're letting them do it for themselves, right?
Right.
But if you are open and honest with them and tell them what you seek, and while they introduce you and they allow you to, figure this out, basically give you 6 to 8 months of real dating, for instance, then what parents are doing is no different from what we are doing at And We Met. And it's pretty healthy. They say finding the right person is about luck that you create, but outsourcing your search without clarity, I think, is a lottery where odds are usually not in your favor.
Absolutely. Giving that away to somebody else to search for you, but it's your journey that you're going to have with your partner. So are you actually ready? Do they know you so much that they'll be able to help you? Of course, they can give you references, but you end of the day, you have to choose your partner. Now, when we're talking about choosing a partner, I'm going a little under the surface of the iceberg that we see. Okay, you look at someone, you find someone, you get married, but what happens underneath? What is the real emotional and societal barriers people face when they're searching for a partner?
Let's start with the obvious societal ones. Okay, we all know them, but I'll still repeat them. The obsession with fairness, height, body perfection, and then there's this belief that the man must be taller, must earn more, should have hair on his head. Yes, this is also one of the things. So it's just exhausting just listening to these check boxes, let alone living up to them. Okay. So these are the societal conditioning. And then let's come to emotional conditioning. Um, the silent expectation that your partner should be your everything. Okay. From therapist, banker, doctor, motivator, everything. I mean, I'll go back to, an example which I've been getting professional examples here. I'll go back to this, asking you that imagine if we ran an organization expecting one person to handle HR, finance, sales, admin, all of it. Really? I mean, even the AI tools are specialized, okay, for these functions. But somehow when it comes to relationships, we want this one person to do it all. And today
Yes.
we are living in these fast paced lives where family support system has also shrunk. And our partners are expected to carry this emotional load of entire village. So this is something to think about. And then there's another emotional barrier I'd wished to address, and which is where when two people meet or they just get introduced, the initial conversations I feel include oversharing pain from the past with someone you meet to discuss your future life. So I honestly don't understand this trend of using your tough childhood or your toxic ex as your identity when meeting someone new who's complete stranger. The past is important, yes, but it's a past for a reason. I recommend sharing your learnings and not your wounds. Um, so I feel that when two emotionally grown up people meet, um, something healthy and lasting has a chance to blossom.
True. And I loved when you mentioned the fact that, you're looking for everything in one person. One more way to look at it is, are you that one person who has everything in you? If you don't, then it's a very unrealistic search that you have, that all the tick marks that you're looking for need to be ticked off.
But it is impossible to be that one person also.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It is. You may feel you can be, but it's not possible. It's
Yes.
exhausting.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Um, So since you work with, you're surrounded with people who are in this space of, finding a partner, and they come from different, different careers, different areas that they have expertise in. Can you tell me how the career pressure or the burnout or the limited time that they feel that they have impacts their journey in actually finding the partner?
Okay, so I don't understand the idea of the limited time. Okay, Uh, I often say don't be in a hurry. Okay,
Right.
because finding someone does take a good amount of both time and effort. All right. Um, as for the professional pressure, it's here to stay. All right. Let's be real. Okay. Even as we speak, many are investing time outside their work to upskill to stay relevant. All right. And along with this, they're juggling their family, social, and personal responsibilities. And why are they doing so? Because it matters for their future. So why is finding a life partner any less important, right? It's one of the most important decisions you take. So here's what I say. Okay, you actually don't need years. All right, you need just 6 months, 6 months of committed time and focused effort. No halts. You may feel exhausted at times, but if you're at it and you're bound to so if you're at it, you're bound to find your person. So I feel if you can give your career your all, you can do the same for your personal life.
Yeah. And also because, you're going to choose a partner with whom potentially you're going to live the rest of your life. Um, and, you don't want to make a choice which you're going to later sit back and think maybe you were in a rush and, you took a decision that you shouldn't have taken. That pressure, yes, of course, a lot of people do go into that. And I'm surrounded by a lot of people who are, in their late 30s, 40s, um, still looking for a partner. One of the things that comes to my mind when I think of people in my circle, Shalini, is probably, they are spending far more time thinking about whether a person is a right fit or not. And then that is also kind of building that pressure on them over a long period of time, that am I being too choosy? Am I being too picky? Um, and there is where, you go into the space of self-doubt, that do I really know what I want? Do I really know myself well enough to choose my partner? So, this comes up in a lot of my coaching space, and that's where I'm bringing up this question that, what could be that internal work that helps people, especially in the late 30s and early 40s, before seeking a relationship?
I really thank you for bringing this up. It's such an important and I think overlooked aspect of dating. Um, as Indians, okay, we are taught to be job ready from a young age. All right, get the grades, pick the right school, build a career. But when it comes to relationship readiness, the script is much simpler. Okay, marry, have children, raise them, get them married, and then repeat the cycle.
True.
Okay. But what about relationship? What does it mean to be ready for one? Well, I think whether you're 25 or 45, being investing or being ready for a long lasting relationship requires internal work. I've met 25-year-olds who are emotionally mature and 45-year-old who are still figuring how to grow, right?
Mm.
So the relationship readiness, how I define it is, you've made peace with your past, even if it didn't go well, all right? You're open to making new mistakes. You're not rigid. You can agree to disagree. You understand boundaries and respect your partner's need for space. You're not afraid to trust. You still have a playful childlike inside you. You know and understand that life is actually work in progress, and that there will be highs and lows, and you're willing to show up fully in a relationship of any kind, even when it's hard.
Yeah.
um, all these qualities, they're not age bound. I think they're self-awareness bound. And when it comes to relationships, when looking for a committed long-term relationships, I do think that you should ask yourself, am I ready to meet someone as grown up as I want them to be? You know, and I'd also like to share another point that we all have insecurities. All right. It's important to work on them. This will, if you do so, you will really enjoy the getting to know the dating process.
Yeah. So beautifully said that, we all have insecurities. Uh, it's important to be aware of what's your insecurity and then to embrace it. Because that's when you're far more open to really talk to people who could also be insecure in their own spaces. So, so it sets those unrealistic expectations on the side, and then it's a more realistic search that then you get into, finding your partner. All right. Is there anything that comes, to your mind, anything that you could share in your experience that, the work people that you work with in your space and we met, are there any stories that you would love to share so that, people can find hope, people can find, that yes, I'm on the right path, and there's nothing wrong with me.
Well, I just think that I will share some story, but you should know that when you are investing in finding your person, you're doing this for yourself and not for anyone else, right? And what I can talk about is, like examples of envy med. Let me just give you some underrated green and red flags, right? Sometimes what we've seen is that things are going too well beyond expectations, all right? Where someone has met an emotionally available person who gives them space, shares laugh, genuinely seems invested in the connection, okay? On paper, it's exactly what they're looking for. And yet they schedule a time to ask me, is something wrong in what we have?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think this happens when you're navigating mismatches for so many years. So meeting someone compatible can feel unfamiliar and even suspicious. So, so some green flags I think don't deserve the credit they deserve. Um, and and like I said, I'd like to talk about some red flags also, which come waving and which are more like a quiet warning.
Yeah.
So, for example, I'll tell you. So, these two individuals connected on, and we met in July, just after we launched. And by November, this gentleman here asked us to delete his details. And he said he's found his person. But by February, he was back and is currently searching. All right. Now, this woman who he had connected with didn't introduce him to her family despite their conversations about, making families meet. And she only reached out to him when she was low, treating him more like an, I think, emotional crutch than a partner. And guess what? She was active in her search, and she did eventually find her partner on And We Met. This is not about blame, all right?
Yeah.
It's important for you as grown-ups to notice that, is this prospect only reaching out during emotional lows? They speak of future plans but avoid action. They bounce in and out without clarity, and they just leave you questioning, sometimes even your worth. So what we're learning on And We Met, that sometimes green flags feel too good to be true, and these red flags are wrapped in like familiar comfort. uh,
Yeah.
all I would say is that when you actually meet someone who fits all your, fits your must haves, don't question it. Lean in, trust the space, and just enjoy the journey.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing that, Shalini. I think that's something a lot of our listeners, especially, the those who are in their 30s, 40s, would have so much to take away from what you shared as, what are the green flags and red flags, because we often have that confusion that, okay, everything is looking great. Is it too good to believe? Or there's nothing working in my favor. This person does not fit in the bill, but is he a red flag or is she a green flag or whatever it is, how do you really break that down for yourself? So I think that gave in a lot of information for us to,
And I'd also like to say over here is that, relationships are very personalized.
yeah,
So, what may be a red flag for someone else may not be a red flag for you,
true.
right? So, this is where you need to be very, very clear for your must haves and your deal breakers, which I say should not be more than three or five.
Yeah, that's wonderfully said, because you can't have a laundry list of 20 things that the person has to take.
Leads you to a lot of confusion and chaos.
Yeah, so you need to be clear of what is it that is important for you, and what is it that you can do away with, or you can, manage with. So, great. Anything else that you would like to share with our audiences, our listeners?
All that I would say is that, I would just like to say that in the end, that, dating takes both intent and emotional effort, which, which is required by both. All right. So in India, we still associate dating with casual sex. So it's not so. And it's important to have clarity as you step out to date and stay present, versus going in your past and discussing that. And I will highly, highly urge singles, if you're listening to me, that your first few dates, I would say first 3 to 4 dates, I would recommend them to be activity based. They could be as mundane as a board game, walk in the park, visit in the museum, anything, but not interacting over coffee or meals. Um, and allow these dates to include more observations and conversations, because when the time comes for conversation, it'll not feel awkward. And that's all I have to say.
That's a great point you made, Shalini, because if you look around, every conversation that happens for finding that potential partner starts with a cup of coffee. So, it's
The
it's
coffee can
it's
wait. The coffee can be the fifth date. If you reach to the fifth date, just know it's good news. And you're
yeah.
likely to if you do it over an activity.
So true, because if I look back at, okay, when I was looking for my partner and I found mine on a matrimonial website, and speaking to people, it was all about, okay, you meet the person first, meet them on a coffee, and then do a vibe check. A lot of it is so awkward that you meet and you're like, it's all about, are you presenting yourself properly? How is the person, being there? How are they talking to you? What is their body language speaking to you? And for those who don't even understand body language, actually start reading through, those gaps, that, oh, this person did this, maybe they didn't mean that.
Yeah, so I'd also like to mention over here. I mean, if I could, say something more, that obviously it starts with a text. Please don't invest more than 5 to 10 minutes in a text. All right. ask for an in-person meeting, and please don't overanalyze and don't overthink. If in doubt, just ask. Just enjoy the process. And it's not as hard as it seems like. We make it hard for ourselves.
So true. We make it hard for ourselves. And thank you for that, great insight, because a lot of us don't believe we think that, okay, I'm being clear about what I want, but when you start, diagnosing too much into what the person is saying, how they are being, you're just making it difficult for yourselves. Right, wonderful. That was a great conversation, Shalini. Thank you so much for really sharing those, those nuggets of well explained, information about what dating is all about in today's world. What is dating for people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and why you should not rush? What are those green and red flags that actually you should look at, and how you should be more open to to explore more rather than feeling the pressure of I'm missing the time or I'm missing that bus of finding the partner. So it was a great conversation. I loved every bit of it, and I'm sure all our listeners as well will have something to take away. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. That was a very powerful discussion. Shalini helped us explore what it really takes to find a partner. If you're in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, I'm sure you had so much to take away from our discussions today. If you like this episode and know someone who would love this too, share it with them. And remember, the Iceberg Theory podcast brings new episodes every 2 weeks. Stay tuned and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.